So good afternoon, students. Let's start our second seminar. So I hope the lecture was clear. So we talked about poverty and global inequality. So we'll have some discussions and some exercises we will solve together. All right? So it's a very important topic. All right? There are some exercises which are very necessary, which you need to know. Okay? So then let's start. I asked you to read any news. If you read any news, please let's share with us. Yep.
Impeachment of Donald Trump.
Oh, impeachment. Okay. So what did you read about that?
I heard it's because of Ukraine. His speech was Ukraine's President Zelensky. It was related to Joe Biden because he did not prosecute Joe Biden's son. I don't remember his name. But it was related to oil company, some kind of oil company.
Okay. So do you support his impeachment?
No.
So actually today I also saw that headline. I did not have time to read. Okay. Good. So what about, did you read anything related to poverty? Thank you very much. No? So anyway, if you did not read, try to read next time. So now we have many things to do. First of all, let's discuss about poverty first, okay? Now we'll talk about types of poverty. So as we have already discussed during the lecture, there were several types of poverty, and the first one was what? Absolute poverty. So now, can you tell me what absolute poverty is? And how do we define it, all right? And which group of people belong to that group?
People who live below the $1.9 a day.
Okay. So according to you, people who live below $1.9 a day income, so they belong to
Absolute poverty.
those people are absolutely poor, right? Okay. So now it's recent data, right? 1.9, and during the lecture I showed you it to be 1.25, right? It doesn't matter. It depends on the time when whatever that organization, World Bank, or way they chose. It used to be $1 in early 90s. Then they made it 1.8 cents, $1.08. Later they chose 1.25, and now they're using 1.9. So what does it, let's say let's choose it for now to make less confusion, but it's the same thing. What does it mean, $1.25? Why did they choose specifically 1.25 or 1.9? Reason. And it is measured in PPP, right? Purchasing power parity. Why did they use specifically these values?
Because for this amount of money, you can buy basic things for living.
Okay.
Food, daily expenses. This amount of money may cover the daily expenses. Since they chose $1.25 per day.
So this $1.25, after doing all the research, okay, they came up with this number. It is, $1.25 means a person who earns minimum that much, he is able to afford minimum, okay, minimum living standards. Minimum. Even though the cheapest food, okay, let's say cheapest food, or clothing, or housing, is $1.25, include everything. If a person has that much money, it means that that person is meeting that minimum of living standards. If it goes beyond this threshold value of 1.25, it means that person has some serious issues, okay? Either that person is not eating enough, or that person does not have enough clothes to wear, or regarding housing. All right? This one is minimum. Minimum. Good? All right? Do you remember the number of people living on absolute poverty? The last data I have seen also, it was 2010. There were 1.2 billion people, right? According to 2010 data, they were living under absolute poverty line. Absolutely poor people. I believe today the number has increased. Okay? After, yeah, it was 2010. After 2010, there was so many things happened, especially that unrest in the Middle East and some African countries, okay? That definitely increased these numbers. Because millions of people from the Middle East and African countries now they're dispersed here and there. Okay?
So it means the number of people have been increased?
No, it increased. It increased, yes. Increased, okay? Good. So what about the second type? Relative poverty. What about relative poverty?
Relative poverty is one where the people live in. For example, a person in America can earn $5,000, but it's not enough for the average standard of living. It would be relative poverty.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, let's say if we consider this classroom again, right? There is one person here, one student, whose father or family is the richest. Let's say that person's, that student's father earns $10,000 a day. It's possible, okay? And we have one student who is, relatively poor, the poorest in this classroom. Let's say whose father earns only 20 million sums a month. All right? Is that 20 million sum is is it considered to be low wage in Uzbekistan? No, it's very high wage, right? Salary is high, but relatively that student is the poorest. Do you understand? It's relative poverty. When we say talk about relative poverty, we don't mean only those rich groups. Relative poverty may exist within these absolutely poor people too. Okay? There can be one person whose daily income is 1.24, and there is another one only 30 cents. Okay? He's relatively poor compared to another one. Alright, so this is relative poverty. Good. And we have another one, chronic poverty. What was it? Yes, poorest of the poor. And how do we define that poorest of the poor? How do we know whether that person is chronically poor?
Whose income is 50 cents?
Yes. Threshold value we chose as 50 cents, right? Half a dollar. If a person, if her daily income is less than half a dollar, we consider that individual as chronically poor. You can imagine if it's 1.25, if it's less than that one, that individual has certain problems, right? But now you can imagine how the situation is bad for chronically poor people. Okay? Good. And the number, do you remember? Around the world, 162 million people were living in a chronically poor situation. Okay? So many people. Desperately, so bad. Okay? Good. And we have another one, multidimensional poverty. What was it? What is multidimensional poverty?
It includes 3 dimensions:
It has 3 dimensions.
consultation and standard of living.
Standards of living. All right. So regarding this, it has 2 types of differences from others. For example, absolute poverty, relative poverty, and chronic poverty. You can apply to for individuals. All right. If you find out one person is living beyond this poverty line, then that person is absolutely poor. There is one person here, let's say he is chronically, is relatively poor, one individual. And you can find if a person, income is less than 1.25, that person is also absolutely poor as an individual. But when we consider multidimensional poverty, it's applied for households. Okay? Households. not for individual. Of course, if that household consists of one person, then still okay. But it is applied for households. Dual cutoff. Number one, so multidimensional poverty. A person, that household, they are poor. Okay, we know they are poor. Second one is they must have some problems in health, education, or living standards. Okay?
What's P?
Poverty. Poor. Okay, poor. That household is poor, we know. And we then, there is household survey, you have to come and check whether that household has these problems. Now we will do an exercise. Once we calculate that multi-dimensional poverty index, based on our calculation, because all of them, they have their weights, right? Health, the weight is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Each has subcategories, right? If we find that it is over 0.3, which is 30%, then we can say that this household is multidimensionally poor. You understand? For example, you can find a household where they are all absolutely poor in that household, but they don't have any problem with this. It's possible. We cannot say that that household is multidimensionally poor. Okay? Is it clear?
If it's less than 0.3, if
it's less than 0.3, then we cannot say that household is multidimensional poor.
It's just
To consider that household as multidimensional poor household, that index should be greater than 0.3 or 0.3. Okay? Okay, here's an exercise. Please read. I believe you finished reading. Okay, good. So now, a group of researchers, all right, they visited one village and they did field survey. And they picked up two households, household 1 and household 2. All right? And so now we have to calculate and find multidimensional poverty index for both households, okay? So, in household 1, what kind of problems did they find?
house problem and education.
Household 1, they found the first problem was with health. And the second one is with education, right? Okay. So now, if we look at this subdivision and the weights of each category, okay, then now we can easily calculate. So first one, household. One child in the family was malnourished, yes? Which means that person in that family, there is one child who is starving from malnourishing issue, from hunger, okay? Oops. Malnourished. So here, it's second subcategory of health. One child or any child, okay, in the family is malnourished. What's the weight we can give? 1/6. Second issue is, in this family there isn't anyone, okay, who has completed 5 years of schooling. If you look again, education, not even one household member has completed 5 years of schooling. the weight is again 1 over 6.
If one member of the family completes 5 years schooling, we don't have to add.
We cannot consider it, okay? If, let's say, there are 10 people in that household, but there is only one person who completed, for example, 6 years of education. That's it, you ignore it. Okay? You ignore it. So now, if we calculate multidimensional poverty index for household 1, now there are 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6, which will give us 1 over 3, which is 0.33, which is higher than 0.3. Can we consider this household as a multidimensional poor household?
Yes.
We can, right? Okay. So now, look at household 2. What about household 2? Household 2. What kind of problems were found here? Education, right? Number 1 is there isn't anyone in the household who completed 5 years of schooling. Is it only one education problem or 2? Including a 10-year-old boy not attending the school. Again, oh sorry, it's education. It's not else. Education. So if you look, there isn't anyone in the family who completed 5 years of schooling. Alright? And it includes one 10-year-old boy who's not attending the school. At any school, a child is out of school for grades through 1 through 8. The 10-year-old belongs to this group. Okay? There are 2. So which means 2 education problems. 1 over 6, 1 over 6. And what more? Moreover, this household had the problem of lack of electricity and insufficient safe drinking water, which belongs to which category? Standards of living. So lack of electricity and insufficient safe drinking water. So 3, it is standards of living. 4 also, standards of living. The weight given is 1 over 18. 1 over 18. Okay? 1 over 18. So now you can easily calculate the multidimensional poverty index for household 2. So now 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6 plus 1 over 18 plus 1 over 18, which will give you 4 over 9, which is 0.44, yeah? 44%. So the thing is, if you are asked, let's say during the exam, to calculate multidimensional poverty index for certain households, you must remember it, and it's not difficult to remember, okay? You just remember, and easily you can give those weights for each category and just calculate. Simple.
Is it like formula?
Yeah, formula is here.
No,
Okay.
I mean these numbers.
Yes. It doesn't change. If, let's say, if I give you an exercise like, regarding this one, you will have a similar exercise, question. I will give you a household with those problems given. The only thing we have to remember is weights, as we are doing now. And you can easily find it. Okay, good. So now, the first one, now for both countries we calculate, right? The question is, compare the indices of both countries. It's households, okay? It's mistake. Households, okay? Households. Household 1, 33%, household 2, 44%. In which household the poverty issue is more desperate?
Second one.
Okay. Because the index is much greater in household 2 compared to household 1, our conclusion is the poverty issue is more serious in household 2, right? Okay. So now ask yourself a question. What is the most important? Health, right? Health. And now look at this, read it again. In household 1, there is one child who is malnourished. Do you understand? Who doesn't have enough food to eat, therefore he is starving from that disease. Okay? But in household 2, there is also again one child, but he is not affected by that problem. Alright? So let's say if I know this background information, I will definitely tell that in household 1, situation is worse. Because they have problem. Okay? And if you are hunger, for example, if you have health problem, why do you need education? Right? Number 1, the most important thing is health. So therefore, when you see the data, and data is provided for you, let's say for Mali, that African country, that MPI index is 0.6, which is the highest, okay? And there is another country, let's say Ethiopia, the second one, Ethiopia, which MPI index is equal to 0.56. You cannot say by being 100% sure that poverty is so much worse in Mali compared to Ethiopia. Maybe in Ethiopia this MPI was it gives this number based on health issue, while here because of education issue. Okay, so therefore, of course, a country with higher MPI index, the poverty level is also high, but it does not tell us perfectly from which category. To tell it, what if you would like to be 100% sure, you must know this kind of background information. Okay? Good. So now, all right, please read it. It's another exercise. Okay, so I think it's clear. So now we are considering a country with 10 people, right? Then we are taking that country A, where reside only 10 people, right? Yep.
Is the total income monthly total income or general?
Well, no, it's just income.
No.
Total income.
Because there is wage and
Where?
1.25 per day.
Yeah, you consider that as a whole per day for all of them. Okay? For all of them, for 10 people, $100. Okay? For 10 people, $100. And now we know that total income for 10 people is equal to $100. And now we have another data given. We know that poorest 2 people, right? Individual 1, the poorest individual 1, his income is equal to $50. Individual 2, $1. And now we are giving that threshold value for considering whether that person is absolutely poor or not. Okay? Again, if you draw, the threshold value is now 1.25. How many people belong to this category? 2. There are 2. 2 people, right? First one, there are 2 people who belong to this category. Absolutely poor. Good? This is it. So now, you should find headcount index for this country. Headcount index. It's very easy. 20%. How do we find it?
Population divided to small population.
So we have to divide the number of absolutely poor people into total population. So headcount index is equal to the number of absolutely poor people divided by total number of population. So here we know the number of absolutely poor people are 2 and total population is 10. So which will give us 0.2. What does it indicate?
20% of population is the poorest.
So 20% of population in this country are absolutely poor. Okay? It is the way they come up with those numbers, with the percentage. 88% of Chinese were absolutely poor, or 50% of Indians were absolutely poor. They calculate it that way. Okay, good. I think it's very easy. Second, now using these statistics, okay, that we already have, now we have to calculate total poverty gap. Total poverty gap. Total poverty gap. What does it mean?
What the difference?
So total poverty gap means, okay, how much financial support is needed. Okay? How much financial support is needed to provide these poor people so they will be living in the, or they will meet that minimum living standard.
0.75.
How much, let's say, how much dollars should we provide for these two people so absolute poverty will be vanished.
So $1.
$2.
$1.
So now we will calculate, right? So how do we calculate it? So now, because in the population does not consist of one person,
We have minimum level of real income.
So we have 2 people.
so we get the sum of first absolutely poor person
Earns $1.
and the number of all. Okay, how many absolutely poor people we have? Now in the case here, age is equal to 2. Okay, and that's the basic formula. And YP represents threshold value.
Minimum level.
So which is equal to
1.25.
1.25. Okay, and we have minus YI
Household.
incomes of each absolutely poor person.
Yes.
Okay? So now let's calculate. So now we know what YP is equal to, right? YP is equal to 1.25. And we know the daily income of absolutely individual ones, yes, absolutely, which is minus $0.5, plus, it gives the sum. Second individual, 1.25, minus income is $1. So if we get, so it's going to be 0.75 plus 0.25, which will give us $1. Right? $1. So, which means to eradicate or to remove, to end absolute poverty in this country, we need $1 which should be invested for these people. If we give that $1 for these people, they are not anymore absolutely poor.
Every day, yes.
Every day we should give $1.
Okay, yes. Alright? So $1. So it is, yes?
In the real exam, what number do we use? 125 or 175?
In the exam.
Yeah.
As I said, no problem. If it's 1.9, let's say 1.9 that the World Bank is using today, still stick on this number, no problem.
So it will be given.
Yeah, I will make it clear here.
Okay.
All right? If it's given, let's say, there will be clearly given. All right? I know that you will be asking too many questions if you don't understand anything. Okay? I know your power. All right? I think it's clear. Total poverty gap, very easy. All right? Very easy. Good. So now, you should watch a video. Now it's about 2 minutes or 3 minutes video. Please pay close attention to statistics. All right? And all the discussion.
It's estimated that somebody escapes extreme poverty every 1.2 seconds. According to the World Bank, anyone on less than $1.90 per day is living in extreme poverty, unable to afford basic food, clothing, healthcare, and shelter. Absolute poverty rates have fallen faster in the past 30 years than in any other time on record. This is a remarkable achievement, but the task of taking people out of the worst poverty remains a huge challenge. The impressive fall is the result of changes in just 2 countries, China and India. In the 1980s, the majority of people in both of these countries were living in extreme poverty. But now the share of the poorest has fallen to 21% in India and less than 2% in China. Increased productivity in farms and a mass migration from poor rural areas to the booming cities enabled many Chinese and Indian people to better their lives. Asia is moving into a new phase, but can other parts of the world copy their model of moving people to factory jobs in cities? Today, more than half the world's poorest people live in Sub-Saharan Africa. The percentage of the African population living in extreme poverty fell from 54% in 1990 to 41% in 2013. But in that same time period, the population of Sub-Saharan Africa boomed, meaning the total number of poor people rose from 276 million to almost 400 million. The population of Sub-Saharan Africa is predicted to reach 2 billion by 2050, and a large percentage of those people are likely to be extremely poor. And unlike Asia, a transformation of this region is unlikely to happen soon. Sub-Saharan Africa is urbanizing faster than any other place on Earth. But moving into the cities is not providing the same ladder out of poverty as it did in Asia. A lack of infrastructure, public transport, and essential services in many African cities prevents poor people from finding jobs and getting an education. The rapidly growing population only makes matters worse by putting further strain on resources. Millions of poor people in Sub-Saharan Africa live far below the World Bank's threshold of $1.90 per day. That means it'll be harder to pull them out of extreme poverty.
Okay, I think this video was perfectly clear for all of you, right? Okay, so the first question, which 2 regions of the world were compared with? Regions.
Asia.
Asia and Africa, right? Asia and Africa, okay. Oops. So, we have seen that incredible changes in China and India, right? So, can you tell me the statistics that you have witnessed regarding India? In 1983,
54%.
the poverty level was 54%. And by in 2011, it reduced to 21%. In the case of China,
83.
in 1981, it was 88%, yes? And it reduced by 2013 to less than 2%. So here, we are talking about these 2 big countries with the biggest number of population. 1% change, it means something very big thing. Okay? Now you can see this incredible reduction in both countries, especially in the case of China. In 1981, it was 88%, right? If we compare rural area and urban area during that time, in rural areas, villages, the percentage of poverty level was 97. Okay? Which means 97% of Chinese people living in rural areas, they were poor. Absolutely. Alright? So they were so successful to reduce it from that number to this number. Here too. So the question, how were they able to do it?
By migrating to urban areas.
Okay. One reason was urbanization. How did it help?
Good infrastructure maybe, so they get education, work, job.
But factories.
Urbanization, it meant the expanding of the cities, right?
Yeah.
So there were more jobs available in the city, which means there was good infrastructure to supply them with good jobs. So which means they were able to improve their lives. And there was another reason. Farming. Productivity in farming sector, right? In these years, 83 and 81, Indians and Chinese, they were not able to supply enough food for their population. Okay? What about today? They are supplying, plus they are exporting it. Alright? They are very happy to consume Chinese rice or some other goods. The consumption goods, okay? So they reach that level. Very nice. Good. How about Sub-Saharan countries? Why they fail? Why they are not able to do it? What about the statistics? In 1990, poverty level was 54%, right? And in 2013, it reduced to 41%. What about in real terms, in terms of numbers? In 1990, it was equal to 276 million, right? But in 2013, the number reached million. It increased by more than 100 million, right? Why? Because population growth rate was greater than growth reduction in poverty level. All right? So it reached. So why they were not able to reduce poverty level?
Transportation problems.
Here, one reason was because of urbanization, right? And now in the video, as you have heard, Sub-Saharan Africa is one of the fastest urbanizing area in the world. They are urbanizing. It's expanding. All cities are expanding, but because of poor infrastructure, right? Lack of transportation, so some other infrastructure, and those urbanization is not providing them with enough employment opportunities, so it's not working there. Okay? Not working. And another one of the biggest issue is high fertility rate. Especially that fertility rate on average is the highest among those poorest people. Okay? I think it's clear for you all. So now exercise 3, please read it. It's very important exercise. If you have a similar question in your exam, you can easily get 10 points, 10 marks. Okay. Again, now we are considering a country where reside 10 people, right? A country, there are 10 people living in this country, and now what is given for us? Their incomes, right? So there are 6 farmers whose incomes are $200, $600, and there is one factory owner whose income is the greatest, which is $1,000. Okay? So we have only this data given. This is it. So now we have to construct size distribution of income, because later we will calculate Kuznets ratio and we will draw Lorenz curve. Okay? To calculate that inequality index, we need that table first, data. Okay? So now we have to construct this table. Alright, we have to construct this table. So, number one, to construct this table, we have to list the population, right? Population for individual 1, individual 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 individuals. Okay? And now, what's the most important thing is we have to chronologically order the incomes starting from the lowest salary to the highest. What's the lowest income in this community? It's 200, individual 1 second, 200 third, 200 fourth, 200, fifth one also 200, and sixth one is also 200. What about seventh one?
600.
600, this business ladies, right? 3 people are business ladies. And the last, the richest person is earning $1,000. Okay, done. Income in money units, okay? So total income is equal to $4,000. Okay? So regarding this one, we did it. And now column 3. Now we have to write, okay? Find each individual's income share in total. Each individual's 400 income share in total. So how do we find it?
200
To
divided
find
by
it for individual 1, we know that individual 1, his income is $200 in total, right? Which is total is 4,000 times 100. So which gives us 5%. So the share of individual 1's income of individual is 5%. What about the second?
5%.
5%, sorry, 5%. Third one, 5. Fourth one, 5. Fifth one, 5. Sixth one, 5. What about seventh one?
15.
15%. This one, the eighth one is also 15. Ninth, 15, and the last one? 25%. Okay? And total, 100%. Yes?
Good.
So, income, share of the income, share of each individual. Okay? I think it's clear. So now, I said, to calculate Kuznets ratio, or to draw Lorenz curve, or calculate Gini coefficient, we have to divide this population into equal 5 parts. 5 equal parts. So 5 equal parts. 5 equal parts. First 2, second 2, third 2, fourth 2, and 2. So which we call quintile. 5 equal parts. Now, this first group, they make 20% of total population, right? Second one, they make 20%, 20%, 20%.
Yeah.
Population. Okay? 20% of population. Good. So now, we have to find this 20% population's income share in total.
So we just said
10%.
Okay? So, how do we find it? It is equal to 10%. Right? First one makes 5%, second one makes 5%, total is 10%. Quintile. What about second poorest of the 20%?
Also 10%.
Also 10%. They make 10%. What about the third group? Middle class. They also 10%. What about the fourth one?
30%.
30%. Okay. The last? 40%. Which means the poorest 20% of the population's income makes only 10% of the total. The richest 20% of people, their income is 40% out of total. Okay? It makes 40% of total income. Okay? So last year, when I gave a similar exam question to the students, the student did not have any problems with this problem. Okay? There were a few, 2 or 3 students who still, were not able to find it. Okay? But the ones who made mistakes, okay, all of them, they failed in this column. Last column. Accumulated income share. What does it mean? Now you should understand it clearly. Okay. Accumulated income, what does it mean? Which is very needed for us. Okay. So first of all, accumulated income, first we consider 20% of people. Okay. Accumulated of 20% accumulated is 400. Yes. So this 400, the share of this 400 in total is 10%. Yes? Same as this one. Second one. Now when we say accumulated income of not 20 but 40%. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now we are not considering only one group. Now we are considering this group. 40. Accumulated of 40%. Alright? Which means we have to consider 4 individuals. Which will make 10% plus 10%? 20%. What about accumulated income of 60% of population? 10, it is equal to
The last
30%.
part should be 100%.
Huh?
The last
Yes. And accumulated income of 80%? 60. And accumulated of all people, of what it is? 100. Yes? Is it clear?
Yes.
If you did not understand, please ask. Because during the exam, I will not answer if you ask this question. If you have it, of course. It doesn't mean that you will have it. You may have it. Good, we are done. Okay, we are done. So, oops. So now, number 2. Calculate with net ratio. How do we calculate with net ratio? Do you remember?
Yes.
Formula?
Top 20% of population.
Kuznets ratio. So Simon Kuznets who gave us that formula, right? We have to divide that top 20% people income ratio
Bottom
to
40%.
bottom 40% population income ratio. So which is equal here, top 20% they make 40, yes? What about bottom 40%? This is bottom 20. Which gives us 2. Kuznets ratio for this country is equal to 2. Alright? It's equal to 2. If you have questions, ask. I'm here for that reason. Yes?
I didn't understand. From where we get 40 and 20?
Okay. So now, top 20%. Which means here, who belongs to top 20%? These 2 individuals, right? So their income ratio in total is 40. So it comes from here. And now bottom 40%, these 4 people. Bottom 40%. Okay? So their total income ratio is 20. 10. So it's 20. So it's 2. Yes?
Is it always calculated like top 20?
Yes, yes. It's Kuznets ratio. We cannot change it. Okay? Oh, alright. So Lord, if it's the case, let's suppose, just imagine, all of these 10 people, just forget about this one, okay? We know it's 4,000, but everyone in this community, they are earning the same, $400, okay? Everyone is earning $400. Is there income inequality?
No.
No. It is perfect?
Equality.
Equality, right? Which means individual one earns 10% of total income, second 10%, everyone earns 10%. And you try to calculate Kuznets ratio.
0.5.
0.5, yes. Why? Because Kuznets ratio in the case of perfect equality will be top 20%, they are earning 10%, which is 20%. But the 40, everyone is 10, it's 40, which is equal to 0.5. So if you see any country which you know that Kuznets ratio exceeds 0.5, it indicates that in that country there is income inequality. All right, there is a country like this. Okay. Once that ratio gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it indicates the severity of income inequality in that country. Okay. Good. Once we understood this one, now we can third one. Now we have to draw Lorenz curve. Okay. Where we need this last column, we have to draw Lorenz curve. How do we draw it? To draw that Lorenz curve, we have to identify, that this vertical line and horizontal line, right? And there is, that 45-degree line, yes? That horizontal, vertical line represents percentage of income. Horizontal line represents
Population.
percentage of population or income recipients, okay? Who receive? There are now 10 people.
Population.
Yes, population, yes. Income recipients or just population. Okay, good. So now let's divide it into 5 equal points. So 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%. So here again 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%. Good. Okay. So now we have to draw Lorenz curve. How do we draw it? Work. What's the income share of these, 20% of people in total income? It's total income, 100%. Okay, 100%. What's the income ratio? It is 10 of 20 people. Okay, 10, which means it's somewhere here. 20% are receiving only 10% of total income. What about 40% of population? 20. Okay? 40% of population, they are receiving 20%. What about 60%? They are receiving 60% means 6 people. Okay? They are receiving 30, somewhere here. What about 80%? It's 60. Okay. If you just connect all of these dots with a line like this, okay? And the last 100% they receive 100, yes? So it will give us Lorenz curve. It is Lorenz curve. Lorenz curve. Okay? Because of that one, we need these numbers. Accumulated income. Accumulated income. Okay, good. And why do we need this Lorenz curve? What does it tell us? It is graphical representation of income
Inequality level.
inequality, okay? If this line is close to this 45-degree line, perfect equality, it means in this country,
Total equal.
inequality is low. If it's close. If the distance between this perfect equality line and Lorentz curve gets big, it means
Highly inequal.
there is high inequality in this country. Any questions? No? Okay, if you don't have questions, now please have 10 minutes break, okay? After, I think 10 minutes is very sufficient. After 10 minutes, we will continue. Okay? So which country has the lowest income inequality level?
A.
Country A. Because the Lorentz curve is the closest to the line of equality. Good. Second one. Which country has the highest income inequality? D. Because the distance is the greatest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So regarding case 3, look. Consider that the Gini coefficients of countries B and C are the same. How is it possible? Gini coefficients of country B and C is the same. Do you remember what was that Gini coefficient? How do we get it?
Yes.
So, if we consider, so the distance of the area, that between the line of equality and Lorentz curve, right? This area, that's shaded area. Let's give, say, it's A, shaded area A. And this remaining area, which is given as white, we give it just area B. Okay? How do we find Gini coefficient? Gini coefficient is equal to area A, is shaded area, yes? Divided by this total area. A plus B. Now we are saying country B and country C's Gini coefficient is same. Is it possible?
Yes.
It's possible, right? So the only difference here is, so this is for country B, but country C is like, the curve looks like this. If you consider that the shaded area is the same in terms of size. Okay? Size is same. So therefore they got, let's say, Gini coefficient for country B is 0.4. For country C is 0.4. Exactly the same. Alright? What do you think? What do you think? Which country social and economic, in which country, okay, the social economic situation is better?
In country B.
In country B or in country C?
In country B.
C. Country C.
So students who said in country B, what is your argument? Why?
See, in country C, approximately 40% of population earns less money than very low amount of money.
In country C.
Yes.
So you mean in country B is better?
Yes.
Yes? So his argument is, in country B, okay, in country B, the population, the poverty level is less compared to country C. Okay, his argument, it's C, this one is B. Because if you look at lowest, 40% of the population, their income is, let's say, it makes 20%, while in country C, it is only 10%. Alright, it's his argument. For those students who said it's C, what is your argument? Did you change your mind? Why did you change your mind? Huh? Why C? So let's say if you are all human rights activists, okay? Human rights activists, I think you know the meaning of human rights activists. If you were from that group of people, you will definitely say that in B the situation is better. Because the number of people, poor people is less, according to the graph, okay, to the curve. So which thing, because for you it's most important, so people, they should live better. But if you ask an economist, all right, maybe they will say C. Okay? Maybe they will say C. Why? Because who contributes the most to the economy or to the economic growth?
Rich people.
Middle class income and high middle class income earners. Okay? So now if you look here, those middle class income and high middle class income, okay, who contribute the most, their incomes are much greater compared to country B. It may indicate that, the country C economically they are better because there are more population is contributing, more people are contributing more to the economic growth.
So
All right?
country is better.
So which country is better? So now, if we make a conclusion, so which one is better?
B. B.
So the answer is I don't know.
It's asked socio-economic situation, not
Okay.
economic situation.
Anyway, so the answer is I don't know. Alright?
What do you say?
We don't know.
What do you say? Just opinion.
So, and I already gave you possible answers, okay? So the answer is we don't know. Why? We have already given Gini coefficient and this Lorentz curves. If you really want to answer to this answer, you must know everything about country B and country C. If you really know the situation in country B and C, then you can answer to this question. If you don't know, you cannot make any perfect argument, okay? Do you understand? If you have this question in your exam, the answer is I don't know. All right, so now, discussion question number 4, all right? Discussion question number 4. So now, you should explain me that inverted U hypothesis of Kuznets. So what is his argument behind his hypothesis? So he argues that vertical line represents Gini coefficient, yes? Gini coefficient. And horizontal represents GNI, gross national income. And he argues that when countries' GNI grows, okay? When it grows, income inequality in the society will also grow. Okay, it will grow. And it will reach one point. After that point, that income inequality slowly will decline. And he tries to explain it based on modern sector enlargement typology. Modern sector enlargement typology. I explained it during the lecture. Who remembers?
More and more. But in order to maximize the point, they were unable, any workplaces, any technologies come and people don't want to work, and either the Gini coefficient starts to going down.
Okay, good. So now, during the exam, okay, you will witness it. I will give you section A, section B, section C, okay? In section C, I will ask you, it will be, essay type questions. One question, there will be 2 essay type questions. One question will be similar to this one, like this. I will provide you with a graph, and you must explain it. Do you understand?
Yes.
You should explain that graph. The second one will be, as you usually do, essay type. One question you have to answer. But one comes with a graph, all right? Which means you may have this type of questions too. So if I ask you the same question, you should nicely explain these, changes in this curve. Okay, good. So again, listen carefully. The economy consists of two sectors, right? Traditional sector and modern sector. Traditional sector, modern sector. So if country wants to grow, which sector do you think contributes more? Today you can easily say it's modern sector, right? So modern sector enlargement, it means that the country is following that strategy, okay? Now we have to enlarge our modern sector so our economy will grow, all right? While making no change in traditional sector, or there is a bit, growth. Good. Now let's start with a very simple example. For example, when in 1993, when Korean car maker Daewoo came to Uzbekistan, okay, in 1993, and they invested and opened their car manufacturing company in Andijan in Saharan. Okay, what do you think in that day? Was there any Uzbek person or any citizen of Uzbekistan who was, a highly qualified engineer in that factory? Maybe there wasn't any. Okay, but over the years, everyone in that company who works today, they are all Uzbeks. Maybe a few foreigners. Okay, all Uzbeks. Which means over the years they learned those skills. So and they were able to work there. Good. So Lord, now. At this point, let's suppose, government decided to follow this strategy and enlarge their modern sector. We see that there is to work in this modern sector, there is no supply of skilled labor. If you want to attract skilled labor, what should we do? How can you attract workers to your company? Pay more. Offer them high wages. Okay? Maybe if you compare to traditional 50% higher wages. Right? So because they see that work, if you are going to work in modern sector, you are paid 50% more, immediately any rationally thinking person will try to get employed in that sector. So which means that slowly they will start going to those universities, getting skills and get employed here. As years pass, more and more skilled people will be employed in this sector. Look, once it's getting bigger and bigger, people who are working here, their wages are increasing, while in traditional sector, it's the same or changes a little. Okay? It's increasing. Which means income inequality between these two groups increases. Do you understand?
Yes.
Increases. Okay. As a result, look, this group is enlarged and it's getting bigger and bigger, and the number of people, they are receiving more income. Which means country's GDP or GNI is also increasing. Do you understand? As a result, GNI increases, while Gini coefficient, income inequality, the society also increases. Okay? I think it's clear. So we are making an argument. It will reach one point. Okay, one point. From that point, it slowly starts to decline. How is it possible? At this point, okay, modern sector, their demand for skilled worker is satisfied. 100%. Alright? There is enough skilled worker. But after this point, the number of skilled worker supply will be exceeding demand. Now there is more people, skilled worker, they are offering their jobs. So which means it's already full, right? But there are more skilled workers who would like to work there. Which means they are ready to work for even less wage. Alright? Which means after this point, competition between employed and unemployed skilled workers start. As a result, that wages start declining. Look, At this point, people were interested to learn skills and be hired in modern sector, right? Okay, it's clear. What about those people? It means that the number of people who were working in traditional sector, let's say low-skilled workers, was decreasing. Because people were getting more skilled, right? The number of low-skilled people decreased, who were earning less wage. At this point, the supply of low-skilled labor is very low, but the demand is high. Okay? In any time, there is demand for high-skilled labor and low-skilled labor. At this point, the number of supply of low-skilled labor is low. Then what will happen? There is high demand for low-skilled labor. If you want to attract them to work, you have to offer higher wages. Okay? So here we know that the wages of low-skilled workers are getting down, while the wages of high-skilled workers is getting down. The wages of low-skilled workers is going up. As a result, it becomes equal. Okay, slowly. Economy is still growing, but income inequality is declining. Do you understand? So you should, if you have this question, nicely explain with your own words, okay, this way. And it should make sense. Good. Okay. All right. Gini coefficient. Now we are considering Gini coefficient again. Regarding this curve, if you read the book, the explanation also given. Okay. But if you read it in that academic language, it's a bit difficult to understand. So now you have to calculate Gini coefficient in the case of perfect inequality and perfect equality. Can you do it? Very simple, right? So in the case of perfect equality, where our Lorentz curve lies. Perfect equality. Lorentz curve is
At A.
on the
A.
line of equality, right? In the case of perfect equality. So Lorentz curve will be here. Which means this shape, what was the formula for Gini coefficient? Gini coefficient is equal to area A plus area B, yes? Good. So now, in the case of perfect equality, when this Lorentz curve is on this 45-degree line, area A now
0.
disappears, which is equal to 0. So Gini coefficient in the case of perfect equality is equal to, our area is equal to 0, area is equal to 0 plus B, which is equal to
0.
Okay? What about in the case of perfect inequality? Can you how is it possible? Perfect inequality, how is it possible?
B becomes 0. B becomes 0.
It becomes equal to B.
Yeah, what about that income recipient?
But only one
income
person.
when do we say it's perfect inequality?
For instance, when one person
person
receives $1 and whereas the second person earns $100 or $1,000.
So 99% of population, for example, earning
Earns the same
$0, and only 1% is earning $100.
Right. If you find a country where only one person earns all income while the rest earn nothing, it is the case of perfect inequality. Okay? So now we graphically look. Which means 20% of population, they are earning 0. 30%, 0. 99%, 0. But there is only 1% who earn everything. Okay? Which means Lorentz curve in the case of perfect inequality will be in this horizontal and vertical line. Alright? Which means this area A gap is maximum size. Where area B disappears, which is equal to 0. So perfect equality is equal to, so now we have area A, and plus area B is equal to 0, which will give us 1. Okay? Okay. Now I will divide you in two groups, okay? Group A, Group B. Now we have to do some discussion. Alright? Discussion. What is that discussion topic? Discussion topic. Now area A, you should give me some arguments, okay? Let's say if country decides power. Now you should give me some arguments. If country reduces poverty, it will slow down economic growth. Alright? You should find argument. If country reduces poverty, it will slow down economic growth or just reduce economic growth. Alright? But in the case of group B, now you should say, if country decides to reduce poverty, it will not slow down economic growth, but it will increase economic growth. Do you understand? You should say it will slow down, but you should find argument it will not slow down. Or it may even increase economic growth. Alright? I think 2 minutes will be sufficient for you for this discussion. Yes? Okay, I believe you finished discussion. Very, very hot discussions were going on, especially in this group. All right. So, what's your argument? Group A. Why? How is it possible that poverty may increase economic growth?
So our argument is
Please, please.
in our case, it's a group.
Yes. Yes.
Our reduction of poverty can increase economic growth. It is not in the argument, just look at the history. People want to represent as social states. As they were trying to reduce poverty, they were trying to establish a universal basic income, such kind of many kind of social incentives and so on, and they failed in the economy, just like USSR. They collapsed, and European social states collapsed because they were trying to establish to eradicate poverty. They saw that it's possible, but it wasn't possible because they did not spend their money on improvement of their modern section. They just spent all their money for social
Social welfare.
social welfare, like free universities, like free house for everyone, and that lead to the economic collapse of the country.
Okay. Any additions?
And people are not encouraged to earn more because everyone is earning the same amount of money. That's why it will also be unfair for people. It will be also
Inefficiency.
Yeah, inefficiency.
It depends on the level that poor people are participating in the economic growth. For example, if the majority are poor people, like aspects on the economic growth, and if we are decreasing the level of poverty, it means that the level of economic growth will decrease also. I think. Because the economic growth was like the main factor of economic growth was depending on the number of poor people. Is it possible?
So therefore, I'm just listening for you. So then I will give some explanations. Okay. And what?
In addition, the country should decide on what to invest. For example, if the country only wants to win against the poverty, they try to invest money and they may lose their reserve, or central bank try to generate more money and it causes inflation. Or they invest less money for arms, for army, and they will be under danger.
Okay. Good point. Good point. Okay. Regarding the first gentleman, he said regarding he brought the example of USSR, which is planned economy, right? It collapsed, right? Socialism, okay, which means according to that one, whatever is the income should be equally distributed among the people, right? Equality must be there. We don't have to have any poverty level in the society. Okay. Regarding that topic, we have just one specific lecture for that one, a seminar. They will discuss it in detail. USSR failed because of inefficiency. Planned economy is also good economy of good type, but if it's properly implemented. USSR failed because of many reasons: inefficiency, corruption, and some other reasons. Okay? Politics, yes, corruption. Okay, good. So this gentleman who gave that last point. Look, let's say, to an argument, government wants to end absolute poverty. And now government found that total poverty gap. And they know if government spends $2 billion, okay, for these poor people, the poverty level will end in this country. Okay? If you ask some economists, they would argue that no, government should not do it. Rather than giving this money for these poor people, we should invest this $2 billion to some other investment projects, which will help us to grow our economy, create more jobs, blah, blah, blah. That's the argument, okay? So no, if you just give it for poor people, they'll just consume and this is it. But of course, there are some benefits. Now, this group will explain us. All right. What do you think? Why this reduction of poverty will not, slow down economic growth?
By investing to our population, we will have more skilled workers.
People become more educated.
So we will be able to produce some goods and build some factories, and we will be able to export our goods. So it will bring money.
Okay. So, good point. So now, if we help these poor people financially, right? So they will be able to get educated, which is very good thing for building human capital. In the future, we'll have greater capacity of human capital, which is good for economic growth. Good point. And
like China and India examples. They reduced this percentage, China and India. And they go like,
They reduced it from 88 to 2%.
Okay, good. Right? Any other arguments? It's the indication that you did not do your homework. If you remember at the end of the lecture, I told you to read this slide and read it from the book. The explanations are provided. These are answers in case of your group. Why reduction of poverty does not slow down economic growth. Regarding the first one, you already answered. Okay? First one. If, the number of poor people is great, those people are not able to educate their children or just get credits, loans, student loans from banks. Because if you go to bank, if you request for student loan, they will ask what? Collateral. Guarantee money or guarantee asset that we have. For people, they don't have it. Okay? So it's bad. The second one is rich people, they usually not contribute much to local economy. How? Because rich people, they would like to consume foreign-made goods, clothes, or food, okay, or electronics. Everything is foreign-made. If rich people are buying those luxury goods, does it have any positive effect on the economy? It doesn't, okay? While poor people, if you give these 2 billion, okay, now, this 2 billion, if you give it to poor people, what will they do with that money? They will spend it, okay? They will spend. So they will be going to restaurants, right? Which means restaurant business is going to be expanding. Because there are too many people who are eating, they will be hiring more people, most probably from the poor. If they are buying, for example, more vegetables, so vegetable producers, farmers will be benefiting. They will be hiring more poor people in their farms. As a result, the economy will grow. Okay? Good. So, in the third case, if we don't help poor people, okay, if we don't eradicate the poverty level, those poor people, they will not be useful to the economy. They will not be, economically active, which is a bad thing. Regarding this one, you already provided the answer. So the last one is that reduction. Let's say government, they decided to reduce poverty level. And let's suppose our rich people group, okay, they mutually agreed, all right, because these poor people, they are also our citizens, our brothers and sisters, so why don't we help? Government and rich people, they decided to help those rich people and to improve their lives. And what about those poor people who are seeing that government is supporting them, rich people are supporting them? Immediately, those poor people, they will develop emotional love toward the government and people, rich people. They will be thankful that they are living in a society where government is really caring about them, where rich people are really caring about them, okay? Which means that there will be very strong unity in that society, okay? For example, China lost in the war against Japan. Why? Because of disunity. So big country, okay? So if it's united country, then economic growth will be also better because they will be doing their best to the economy, all right? Okay, there are many other explanation too. So now I will show you video. Just 2 minutes or 3 minutes will be more than sufficient, okay? Just watch it and I will ask you one only single question.
Bangladesh is one of the world's most densely populated countries, with a population of 156.6 million. 36% of its inhabitants live in abject poverty. Bangladesh itself forms part of the historical and cultural region of Bengal, where its people are mostly crammed into a delta of rivers that empties into the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh is a world away from our Western way of life. It suffers from many problems such as poor infrastructure, insufficient power supplies and political instability. The country spent 15 years under military rule, and although democracy was restored in 1990, government corruption still remains. You can see here we have bought much needed food and water to give to some of the most destitute. As you can see from these images, rising unemployment and food prices and a sluggish economy are certainly taking their toll on Bangladesh. About 40% of Bangladesh's population live on less than £1 a day. People are struggling to provide food for themselves and families every day because of the lack of job opportunities. This poor lady is begging for money to be able to buy food for her family. It's difficult for a woman to be able to provide for family due to no jobs. She shows appreciation by doing a prayer to show how thankful she is after being given food.
So now I will start video here.
Begging.
This video is quite long, 8 minutes, okay? So which means now it's the case of Bangladesh, all right? The size is almost 3 times smaller than Uzbekistan, but the population is almost 6 times greater than Uzbekistan, all right? You can imagine how dense that country is. What kind of problems we have seen in this short, episode?
Poor infrastructure.
Poor infrastructure, right? Corruption, political problem, right? Low power supply, right? And high unemployment rate. And the main problem here is the number of poor people. Poverty level is very high. Bangladesh is considered to be #1 in terms of the child's malnourishing problem. Okay? Malnourished and hunger in the child is the highest. Okay. So the question is, if you compare situation in Bangladesh with the situation in Central Asian countries, what will be your conclusion?
Central Asian countries are much more rich than Bangladesh.
So if you compare, so now you can make your conclusion can be, now we are living much better. All right? Much better. So Bangladesh is also doing their best to eradicate, because of that population issue, they are having those problems. Okay? Good?